Everyone assumes that what we saw on screen during that milestone episode was exactly what it appeared to be. Most viewers believe that the introduction of the brilliant, somewhat arrogant new surgeon, Tristan Roberts, was just a way to bring fresh blood into General Hospital. The obvious explanation seems to be that Tristan was brought in solely to clash with Britt Westbourne, to create some hospital drama and maybe spark a new medical rivalry or romance. On the surface, he is just a talented doctor with a chip on his shoulder, ready to shake up the staff at GH. That is the narrative the show wants us to believe, and it is the narrative that the majority of the audience has completely bought into without a second thought. At the exact same time, most viewers believe that Jason Morgan's highly anticipated return to Port Charles is a straightforward story of a weary man trying to reclaim his life. Everyone assumes that Jason's sudden declaration that he is leaving Sonny Corinthos' mob organization is just the natural evolution of a father who survived a horrific WSB captivity and now simply wants to prioritize his son, Danny Morgan. When Jason immediately whisked Danny away on a father-son vacation right after returning, the obvious explanation seemed to be that he just wanted to bond with his boy far away from the chaos of the city. We all accepted that Jason was just readjusting to civilian life. But what if we're looking at this the wrong way? If you ask me, there is a behind-the-scenes possibility that connects these two seemingly unrelated events in the most mind-blowing way possible. What if Tristan Roberts is not just a random new surgeon? What if that wasn't the real reason Jason Morgan took Danny out of town so abruptly? I keep wondering whether we are staring right at the biggest twist in General Hospital history, hidden in plain sight. There is a massive rumor circulating that Tristan Roberts is actually Morgan Corinthos, living and breathing under a completely fabricated identity. I know it sounds unbelievable, but hear me out and look at the clues that have been subtly dropped. Tristan Roberts appeared in Port Charles at the exact same moment Jason Morgan returned. Insider buzz suggests that if you look closely at the timeline, Jason and Tristan were actually on the exact same flight back to town. They were reportedly seen speaking to each other in a way that suggested they weren't just strangers making small talk on an airplane. They interacted like people who already knew each other intimately. Yet, the moment their feet touched the ground in Port Charles, Jason did not mention Tristan to a single soul. He didn't say a word to Carly Spencer, and he didn't breathe a hint of it to Sonny Corinthos. For a man who values loyalty and family above all else, Jason's absolute silence regarding this new doctor feels incredibly deliberate. Something about this feels hidden. What if someone planned this entire sequence of events? Let's go back to the tragic night Morgan Corinthos supposedly died in that horrific car bomb explosion. We never saw a definitive body, just unimaginable grief. The WSB has a long, dark history of swooping in, stealing bodies, and resurrecting people for their own twisted agendas. What if the WSB pulled Morgan from the wreckage, barely clinging to life? They could have taken him to a black site, healed him, and realized that the son of the most powerful mob boss on the eastern seaboard was the ultimate strategic asset. Over the years, they could have trained him, funded his medical education, and molded him into the brilliant surgeon we now know as Tristan Roberts, completely erasing his past in the process. This alternative story perfectly explains Jason's bizarre behavior since his return. What if Jason discovered Morgan's survival during his own brutal captivity with the WSB? Morgan, desperate to escape the agency's clutches, might have facilitated Jason's freedom or secretly allied with him. Once they managed to get back to Port Charles, Jason knew that the WSB would be hunting them, watching their every move. That is why Jason immediately grabbed Danny and left town. He wasn't just going on a vacation. He was securing his son in a safe location before the absolute hurricane of WSB retaliation hit Port Charles. Jason needed to clear the board to protect his own blood before he could help Morgan navigate his dangerous return. If this unconfirmed information is true, Jason Morgan is currently the only person in Port Charles who knows that Tristan Roberts is actually Morgan Corinthos. And knowing Jason, he wouldn't keep a secret of this magnitude from Sonny and Carly for long. Imagine the scene that might be coming. Jason pulling Sonny and Carly into a secure, soundproof room, looking them dead in the eye, and delivering the news that their son is alive. After years of mourning, after the endless tears and the guilt that nearly destroyed their marriage, Sonny and Carly would be overwhelmed with a joy so profound it would drop them to their knees. But that joy would instantly be followed by the cruelest ultimatum imaginable. Jason would have to lay down the absolute law. He would tell Sonny and Carly that they cannot run to General Hospital and throw their arms around Tristan. They cannot call him Morgan. They cannot even look at him with a hint of maternal or paternal recognition in their eyes. Because if the WSB is still monitoring Tristan, waiting to see if his cover is blown, any emotional reaction from the Corinthos family would be a death sentence for him. Can you even begin to fathom the psychological torture that would inflict on Carly? She would have to stand in the same elevator as her resurrected son, hear his voice, look into his eyes, and treat him like a complete stranger. Sonny would have to swallow his mob boss pride and watch his boy from afar, unable to protect him or welcome him home. They would have to endure this agonizing charade until Jason can figure out a way to completely dismantle the WSB's presence in Port Charles. That's one possibility. But another theory is that Morgan Corinthos doesn't even know he is Morgan. Scenario 1 suggests that we are dealing with a full-blown sleeper agent situation. What if the WSB didn't just give him a new name, but completely wiped his memory? In this scenario, Tristan Roberts genuinely believes he is Tristan Robert. He has a fabricated history, false memories of a childhood that never happened, and zero recollection of Sonny, Carly, or his tragic past. Jason might have discovered this horrifying truth while in WSB custody, and is now secretly working to find a way to deprogram Morgan before Sonny and Carly find out. Jason knows that if Carly sees her son and he looks at her with absolute cold unrecognition, it would break her heart all over again. Jason might be playing a dangerous waiting game, trying to trigger Morgan's true memories safely. Scenario 2 takes things in a completely different, much more empowering direction. What if Morgan Corinthos is playing the ultimate double game? In this possibility, Morgan remembers everything. He never lost his identity. Instead, he used the WSB. He let them train him, let them fund his elite medical education, and let them turn him into a top-tier operative, all while waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike back. He adopted the Tristan Roberts persona willingly to infiltrate the agency that held him captive. Now that he is back in Port Charles, he and Jason are secretly coordinating a massive underground war to take down the WSB infrastructure from the inside out. Morgan is pretending to be Tristan not because the WSB is forcing him, but because he is setting the ultimate trap for the agency, protecting his family by remaining in the shadows until the job is done. Scenario 3 is where things start to get truly terrifying. What if we're looking at this the wrong way and Tristan Roberts isn't an ally at all? What if the WSB is using Morgan as the ultimate bait? We all know that Sonny Corinthos' greatest weakness has always been his children. The WSB knows this too. What if the entire cold fusion project, the chaos with Ross Cullum, and the mess with Jen Sidwell were all just elaborate smokescreens? The real endgame of the WSB might be the total destruction of the Corinthos organization. By dangling a resurrected Morgan in front of Sonny, the WSB knows that Sonny will make reckless, emotional decisions. They brought Tristan to Port Charles specifically to destabilize Sonny's empire, knowing that the mob boss would risk everything, expose his vulnerabilities, and walk right into a fatal trap just to get his son back. But there is a final theory circulating in the rumor mill, and it is by far the most dangerous possibility. What if the WSB didn't just save Morgan Corinthos? What if they weaponized him? We all know that Morgan suffered deeply from bipolar disorder, a condition that caused him immense pain and erratic behavior before his presumed death. What if the WSB scientists used his psychological vulnerabilities against him? They might have fractured his mind entirely, turning him into a Manchurian candidate. In this dark, haunting scenario, Tristan Roberts is a lethal weapon programmed by the WSB to assassinate Sonny Corinthos. The WSB brought him back to Port Charles and placed him at General Hospital to get him close to the family. If Sonny pushes too hard, or if a specific trigger word is spoken, the Morgan we knew could vanish, replaced by a cold-blooded killer designed to murder his own father. That is the kind of tragedy that would leave scars on Port Charles forever. There may be more going on here than we could ever possibly imagine. The writers have laid down a foundation that is ripe for the biggest explosion of drama this show has seen in a decade. Will Jason Morgan be able to navigate this impossible minefield and bring Morgan back to his family safely? Will Carly and Sonny be able to withstand the agony of looking at their son without being able to touch him? Or will the WSB's sinister programming turn this miraculous resurrection into a bloodbath? I cannot confirm which of these paths the show will take, but the speculation alone is enough to keep us on the absolute edge of our seats. Something about Tristan Roberts is a massive puzzle waiting to be solved, and if this insider buzz proves true, General Hospital is about to deliver a storyline for the ages.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.